Are books worth buying? That is the question that I am going to be exploring today. I am going to revisit TBR Vets, books that I said I wanted to read back in 2022 in April, and see if I've read those books, see where they are now. And I'm also going to spend a little time looking at what I've discovered up to this point. So in January, February, and March of this year, I have looked back each month at what I said I wanted to read back in 2022 in those months. And let me start by going over what I feel like has been happening so far and see if I can start to answer that question, at least for me. So I did write down in my notebook a few sort of stats on everything that I have looked at in this video series, if you will, since January. Between January and March of 2022, there were 25 books that I said I wanted to read. And this is according to everything that I logged on the story graph. I was just starting to regularly use it back then, so not all of this data is accurate, but this is the information that I have. Of the 25 books that I said I wanted to read, to date, I've read all but 4 of those 25 books. And you can see the past videos that I've put out each month this year where I kind of go through and talk about, the books that I said I wanted to read, which ones I read, which ones I've unhauled, all that kind of jazz. I did take the time, however, to go back through and look and see that of the 25 books, 16 of them have been unhauled as of today, and 50% of those I unhauled unread. Now, I can explain that, which is that a good chunk of them, whether I read them or not, got unhauled because I moved between 2022 and now. In fact, I moved twice. And as part of that move, I had to pack up all of my books and put them in storage and pay to have them stored for quite a few months and then pay to move them a couple of states over. However, one of the things that I can note is that of the 16 books that I unhauled, the average rating of them was 4 stars. That would be of the 8 books that I unhauled that were read. Most of them were 4-star reads. That's why I still had them. Usually if a book is a 2 or 3 star for me, I get rid of it pretty quickly. I don't tend to just hang on to every single book that I've read just because I bought it and owned it and read it. But that does bring me to the question of, do I still think books are worth buying? Especially because there's no guarantee that every book that I buy is going to be a 5-star. And I think looking at that data, I would say yes. I mean, I did unhaul half the books that I bought, but half of those I would have kept if I wasn't moving. And I think in my next move, hopefully that won't be the same situation. I have no plans to move anytime soon, but I'm hoping the next time that I move, I would want to keep everything that I haul. So I think that books are still worth buying, even if you unhaul them. But I'm realizing in looking over this and just thinking about it over the years that there are probably some caveats. For one, I think for me, I find that because I don't want to keep every single book just because I've read it, that I tend to prefer to buy my books used. I think that they're cheaper to buy that way, and I also don't feel bad getting rid of them if I just unhaul them to the library or a little free library or something like that. So getting books as cheap as possible makes them worth buying to me. And I also find that I'm willing to buy books, but I've learned to do so with a bit more discretion. I spend a lot more time looking at books before I actually purchase them. And by that I mean I will take time to actually not just read the back of the book, but to open the book itself and to spend at least a minute or two in the store actually looking at the book and reading the first couple of pages and that kind of thing. I will take time to let the book sit on a shopping list for a while so I don't put it on a list and buy books immediately. I have really tried to decrease any impulse purchases with books, though that still happens. And I'm also finding that I'm a lot less likely to buy a book if my source of finding it was off of a recommendation or book list. When I look back at the books that I unhauled unread, the vast majority of them were books that maybe touched upon some general topic that I was interested in, like fantasy or sci-fi or family stories. But other than that, I knew nothing about, and I had purchased just because people were like, oh, if you like fantasy stories, read all these ones. And it's not that I think those are bad lists. I just realized that I still need to cull those lists down further. So I do feel like I've learned a lot since 2022 about my own reading habits and what kind of books I'm most likely to keep. I've started borrowing books from my library more, and I think that's going to be a habit that I continue to build on, where I'm just in general trying books before I buy them, whether that's out of the library or reading longer excerpts of the beginning pages or that kind of thing, because I really do find that writing style is something that can really make a book hit or miss for me, and it's usually something you can figure out within the first couple of pages of a book. So I guess that's where I land on, how the books are going, and whether or not I think, they're worth buying, and whether, TBR lists are worth making. I think that also has a little bit to do with it. I have found overall that while I don't like having a super long digital TBR list, I do think TBR lists are helpful. Like, it's nice to have written down somewhere books that you're interested in and would like to read, but I also find that like not keeping too close track of that can be helpful at times as well, because then the books that I'm really interested in pop up in my head more often, and I just don't have this long running list saying buy me, buy me, buy me. So honestly, if I had any advice and you wanted to buy fewer books, I would say get rid of your TBR list. And you'll just find that all of a sudden when you're in a bookstore, you don't know what to buy, so you buy less. Anyway, that's not the point of the rest of this video. The rest of the video, I'm just going to quickly share what April looked like for me in 2022. I have zero data on what I read in 2022, but I can tell you what I wanted to read. And in April 2022, I told the Story Graph there were 3 books that I wanted to read, and as of today, I have read 2 of them. And the 2 books that I read are The Power by Naomi Alderman. I actually just recently read this book, so that was helpful for this month. And the other one is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. And I do have to say that I noticed a couple of things about these 2 books right away. One, they match. That's just a coincidence. But 2, they're both sci-fi, speculative fiction on the side of dystopians. They're both by female authors, and they were between 4.5 and 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed both of these stories, the lenses in which they were told, and just the story that they were talking about. So I think that was just a coincidence. I don't think at the time that I put these on my TBR list that I was specifically looking for books of this type, but I did notice when I went back and looked at the books that I had added to my TBR between January and March of 2022 that I did enjoy almost all of the sci-fi I bought back then, and I still have a few left to read, which is making me want to get to them even sooner. But before I get to that, let me tell you about the one book that I added to my TBR in April 2022 that I haven't read yet. And that book is a translated work, The Good Soldier Svejk. Now, I can think of a couple of reasons that this got added on and then not read. One is that I bought this book and I had heard some about it, but not a ton about it, and I was very interested in it. And then my husband saw it, and surprisingly, he picked it up and read it right away. And the reason I say surprisingly is my husband tends to be very busy. He also tends to read nonfiction, but he flew through this book. He absolutely loved it. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. This is a story about a Czechoslovakian soldier who is trying to navigate his way through World War I. He really doesn't want to be very involved, but find that he is. This is also supposed to be a very humorous novel, which is exactly how my husband found it and describes it. He still has really fond memories of reading this book, and I'm sure is a bit flabbergasted that I haven't picked it up yet. I think just seeing him enjoy it so much, it's kind of like you're half feeling FOMO and half feeling like, oh, but what if I don't like it? And there would be no issue if I didn't like it. Like, he'd be happy to hold on to this book, but I just haven't gotten to it. It may also be because it's been a big chunky book. And while I do really like big books, I do tend to spread them out over the course of the year and only get to a handful each year. I also pick my like monthly TBR randomly. So I don't know. I don't know how often the letter G comes up in my TBR game. Maybe I need to fix that. But anyway, this is the only book from April that I said I wanted to read in 2022 that I haven't read yet. And it also matches the other two books. Like, I had some sort of like color theme going on. It also kind of matches my shirt. Are these two colors I like? Maybe. So that's all I have going on there. This is a pretty short video, but I just wanted to come in and talk about a couple of these things real quickly and kind of do like a summary. I think going forward, I'm going to keep talking about this less as a book haul revisit, because these aren't really book hauls that I'm revisiting. It's more like revisiting my TBR Vets and sort of a TBR audit. Like, how am I doing on reading the books that I said I wanted to read that I bought at some point? Because I know for a fact not all of these books, and not in these three books specifically, weren't necessarily purchased in April. That won't all get sorted out until I get to the point where I have like a video record of that information. So that will be coming up, but I don't think until the end of this year. What is coming up over the next couple of months is my birthday. And more specifically, my birthday month. So I can say that in May and June of 2022, I about double the number of books that I was saying I wanted to read each month. And then comes July, which is my birthday month, and that list is pretty long. We'll just put it that way. I will say at a glance, it seems like I worked my way through quite a few of those books, but I haven't looked too closely, and there's definitely still some on there that I haven't read yet. The other thing that is going to be coming up is I decided that I want a more concentrated way of making sure I'm getting to these TBR vets. Right now, I've ordered them on my shelf and put them in places to remind me that they are a TBR vet and they're something I've owned for a while, and I just want to read it or unhaul it. And that's been working pretty well when I play my TBR game. But the other thing that I've decided I am going to do, which I think I thought about doing at one point and then didn't, is I'm going to add them to my unicorn jar. And that's part of my TBR game, where I have like a little jar where I put slips of paper, and if while playing my game I can't find a book to match the prompt, I just pull a random book out of the jar. Right now that jar just has in it books that I said I was going to read in the previous month and didn't get to, but I think each month I'm now also going to start adding the TBR vets to it. So that's it for now. Let me know, do you think books are worth buying? Do you think that maybe you should slow down your book buying because you're realizing you buy too many books and then don't read them or don't end up liking them? Or what is the situation for you? And yeah, that's it for me today. I'm happy with the books that I'm purchasing, and I'm happy I'm making it through some of these past TBR vets. I haven't looked at what my average rating is for them, but it seems like it's pretty good. I've read quite a few, I don't know exactly how many, but I've read quite a few TBR vets from 2022 this year, and I've really enjoyed the vast majority of them. And so I'm kind of starting to regret that I've put some of them off for so long, but at least I'm getting to them now. So that's it for me today. I'll talk to you next time.